Hello and welcome to GCSE Geography. Just like to take a few minutes of your time to talk through a little bit about what choosing GCSE Geography as an option at St Catherine's is all about. So first of all, why choose geography in the first place? So geography tackles the big issues, looking at environmental responsibility. It's looking at our interdependence around the world, so how countries are all relying and interdependent on one another. Studying cultural understanding and tolerance of different parts of the world, different cultures, different religious beliefs, and also looking at how commerce, trade and industry are also interlinked and connected around the world and how our world functions and works. The world in which we live is likely to change more in the next 50 years than it has ever done before, and geography explains why, and it helps you to prepare for those changes. Some of the stuff we're hearing about in the news at the moment with the climate crisis, one of the biggest migration and refugee crisis in the world, that's got to have solutions, and geographers discuss and come up with solutions to some of those crises. The climate crisis has got to have people coming through the next generation who are going to come up with solutions, who are going to come up with innovations and new technology to dealing with the issues that are resulting as a consequence of climate change. A global pandemic is something that is to do with geography, how this has travelled around the world, how we move, the movement of people, the interaction of people has spread this disease, and geographers study and map those sorts of things so that we can put into place policies and procedures in case to help us prepare for those eventualities in the future. So geographical study fosters qualities and provides this firm base for a lifelong learning, to constantly be curious about the world around us. Geographers need to want to know what's going on. You need to be watching the news. You need to be interested. What's going on with the politics in America with Trump? What's going on with the Rohingya refugee crisis in Bangladesh and Myanmar? What's going on with the volcano that's erupted somewhere, or the earthquake that took place in Japan? What's going on with the food shortage in some parts of the world? All of these things, people want to ask these questions, and geographers are naturally curious at finding out what's going on around our world. These skills are transferable skills which are taken on into the world of work. As a complex world of employment today, there's going to be a whole future of new jobs coming through, particularly with some of these big issues that I've just mentioned, where people will need young people coming in with innovations, with creativity, thinking outside the box about how we can come up with solutions to these problems. And so a whole new selection of different careers are evolving, and geography is at the very forefront of that, and that's because geography is about the future and it encourages flexible thinking. So the course that we study is AQA, and it's divided into 3 papers. The first paper is all about the natural environment. We look at coasts, all about coastal erosion and coastal processes and coastal management. We look at rivers, again, coastal processes from the source to the mouth, how that shapes our landscape, flooding, how it leads to flooding, and what particular environmental factors can lead to flooding, and how rivers can be managed. The living world, so we look at ecosystems, interaction between different species, and we focus on the Amazon rainforest and hot desert environments, and we look at how those ecosystems can be managed. And we look at natural hazards, so we look at tectonics, focusing particularly on earthquakes. We look at weather, where we're looking at extreme weather and weather patterns, and how extreme weather is perhaps becoming worse because of climate change, and we focus on Typhoon Haiyan. So each paper and each unit has specific case studies that we have to look at. And those case studies are really important because the examiners are looking for you to be able to apply to your general theory knowledge actual real life examples of places that these have occurred in the world. So every unit will have case studies that we have to study, whether it's Typhoon Haiyan, or whether it's the Japan 2011 earthquake and tsunami, or whether it's the Mojave Desert in the USA as an example of an ecosystem. So paper 1 is 35%, it's out of 88 marks, and it's a paper that lasts an hour and a half long. The second paper is the same, 35% and an hour and a half, and this is looking at all the human side of geography. So this is looking at urban development, urbanisation, rural to urban migration, and some of the challenges that come with that, some of our big cities around the world. So we compare Rio as an example of a city that's growing in a developing country. We call it a newly emerging economy, NEE, and we compare that to London as an example of a richer country. We refer to that as a HIC, a high income country. And we look at some of the challenges involved. We also look at the changing in the economic world. So why some countries are poorer and some are richer, what countries can do to try to move their way through the measures of development to move their way up to becoming a higher income country, what's hindering those countries, and how we can try and help those countries to get out of poverty. And then we look at resource management, mainly food, energy and water, and we particularly focus on energy as that has a big connection with science and looking at renewable energy in particular. Paper 3 is an interesting paper. It's quite a nice paper. It's 30%. This paper is only an hour and 15 minutes long, and it's split into 2 sections. The first section, section A, is a bit of a decision-making paper, and the students get given a pack 6 weeks before the exam with maps, satellite images, graphs, aerial photographs about a particular topic. So one year it was all about whether a superhighway should be built through the Peruvian rainforest. And when they have all the data, they then go into the exam and they answer some questions about that, and it will be about whether that road should be built or not and justifying your decision. And the issue changes each year according to whatever's going on in the world. So it's really important, if you're thinking about taking geography as a GCSE, that you watch the news. That's like my biggest advice. Watch the news, because everything that is in the news is geography, and everything could potentially come up in the exam. Even a global pandemic could potentially be in a paper in 2 years' time. You could be being asked questions about it, why it spread so easily, why some countries dealt with it better than other countries. All of that comes into geography. Section B, which is part of that, is fieldwork, and we have to go and do 2 studies of fieldwork, 1 human and 1 physical. And it's not so much about what the fieldwork shows us, but it's about the process of carrying out fieldwork methods and whether they are suitable methods in order to find out the answers to our questions. So we go to the town centre and we can compare quality of life in 2 opposite parts of town. We collect data by doing land use surveys, questionnaires, environmental surveys, and then we come back, we write that up. And our physical environment, we go to the beach and we look at coastal processes such as longshore drift and how the beach is managing that in the form of beaches, groins, seawall and beach replenishment, and whether those methods of management are successful. So those 2 pieces of fieldwork are really important, but it isn't about what they show and about the results. It's about, are those techniques suitable? How can we analyse the results? What's the best way of presenting the data? And are there any problems with collecting the data? Any issues? What's the risk assessments? Okay, learning to carry out the risk assessment. So it's very practical in terms of not so much what the results are, but this lifelong skill of, do we know how to go and collect data in a suitable way to find out answers to big questions? And those skills are incredibly transferable for employers. So skills in geography then. Geographers can generally make concise reports. They're good at handling data. They're good at asking questions. They're very curious. They want to find out why things are happening and where things are happening. They're good at making decisions about things and justifying their decisions. That's all of that paper 3 paper. Analysing material, looking at the resources, looking at the maps, looking at the graphs. What's the evidence for the issues that are taking place and how can you justify your point of view? They need to be very organised and be able to think creatively and independently. They also need to be very good at maths. There's a lot of maths involved in geography, have quite a good level of literacy because there's quite a lot of writing and extended writing and essay style questions. And they also need to have a very good understanding of science. So maths, English and science are where this subject geography is crossing over into those other subjects. So geographers are good communicators, very spatially aware of the world around us, aware of places around us, socially, economically and environmentally. So in terms of people, finances, who's rich, who's poor, how can we change that, and our interaction with the environment. We're very good at problem solving, good team players, computer literate, and very well-rounded, flexible thinkers. And again, you can see why all of those skills make us one of the most employable subjects. So studying geography helps us to have a better understanding of the world, places and people. And there's a rising number of students wanting to study this, and geography graduates are experiencing some of the lowest levels of graduate unemployment. So now is the best time to be studying geography. If we have a look at some of the figures there from the Institute of Fiscal Studies, it states that geography students are more likely to complete their degrees. In terms of employment, they have an above average likelihood of gaining employment at the end of their degrees, and they outperform other disciplines such as politics, physics and history. And in terms of earnings, geography graduate earnings outperform other subjects, including technology, biosciences and history. So you can see this subject, it's such a broad all-round subject that actually it crosses over into so many different career paths, and that's what makes it so valuable. So some of the jobs you could get involved with if you choose to study geography. If you're interested in places, you could be a travel agent, tourism officer, ecotourism advisor, tour guide, medium researcher. If you're fascinated by maps, you could be a GIS specialist, cartographer, utilities manager, remote sensing analyst. If you're interested in world events, you could be an aid worker, diplomat, refugee advisor, charity coordinator. Interested in the weather, you could be a weather presenter, disaster manager, flood prevention officer, risk assessor, water supply coordinator. Interested in human behaviour, we've got planners, social workers, market researchers, housing officers, estate agents. And then we've got looking at where people work and why they work there. We've got economic developers, location analysts, retailers, regional developers, transport managers. If you care about the planet, you could be an estate manager, forestry ranger, environmental consultant, pollution analyst, conservation officer. And if you enjoy being in the landscape, you could be a hydrologist, coastal manager, geologist, civil engineer, or soil conservationist. This is just a tiny selection of some of the jobs that geographers have gone into, and there are a huge number that are available, and also more and more being created with changes in technology, especially sustainability, urban, town and country planning as well, planning our cities sustainably. How are we going to reduce our impact on the environment? So if you are interested in choosing geography, then please talk to your teacher, your geography teacher. I'm going to pop into all your classes as well. We are available if you have any questions about it. I'm hoping that I've managed to persuade you to choose geography, but think carefully about whether geography is the right course for you and whether you would be able to cope with the maths and the science and the writing as well, because it is a very broad subject. You need to be interested in the news, and you need to be a curious person about the world around you. We've made a short video for you where we've interviewed a few people about why they chose geography. So I will leave you to enjoy and hopefully look forward to seeing you in year 10. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hello Year 9, so I'm here to talk to you about why I chose geography and why I'm so passionate about teaching geography here at St Catherine's. I first chose geography because I was really interested in the natural world around us, interested in politics and how countries differ and how some countries are more developed than others and why that's the case. And that led to me doing a degree in environmental studies and learning about the greater world and how people belong and where they belong in the world and why. I enjoy teaching geography at St Catherine's because there's so much variety in our course. We do human and physical geography, we look at local case studies as well, and it's really interesting to get passionate and talking about it and hearing the debates that all of you fantastic students have got. So I look forward to seeing you studying GCSE geography soon.
So, from growing up as a small child in South Africa, I first became interested in geography when my dad used to take us on safari. and I loved to see the different animals and how they lived and adapted to where they were living in that ecosystem. And then as I was growing up, we were really lucky. We were able to travel to different places, and then I came to live in England, and I used to love spending hours and hours poring over the world, just looking at maps and thinking, wow, this is just a wondrous place. And geography really helps you understand how the world works, whether it's human geography, physical geography, how they both work together. And that's what you can learn doing GCSE geography at St Catherine's, how the natural world and the human world are separate, but they do have an interlinking as well. And I'm really looking forward to teaching you next year.
Hi there, I chose geography because I love the world around me. Most especially I love to travel. And geography gives you that understanding of people, cultures and environments. I feel very passionately about the environment, and geography is the subject that goes best, in my view, with looking after our planet. I came into teaching because I wanted to inspire the next generation of leaders and shapers to look after the planet, make it a better place for tomorrow. So whether you're interested in planning or architecture or landscaping and environmental issues, in teaching or anything to do with the world around you, geography takes you everywhere.
I chose geography as a student because I was passionate about finding out about the world around us. And I was inspired by my geography teacher when I was your age. She was somebody who was enthusiastic, who wanted to show me about how the landscape around us had been formed and wanted to tell us how people interact with each other. And she really drove that passion inside of me. And then I went on to study geography further, and I went off to university, and I became really interested in the development side of the world, and I focused my degree on that particular area, about how people are moving around, migration, about how some countries are richer, some countries are poorer. And when I think about the subject that I teach, I remain, after all these years, really passionate about passing on that information to future generations. I think it's essential that students learn about the world around us. I think the fact that geography includes politics, includes economics, includes housing and planning, all about how sustainability, which is such a critical issue in our world around us today. We have people like David Attenborough who are pushing forward our knowledge and our understanding about our impact on the environment. And I think it's essential that students learn about our impact on the world so that we can go forward and train young people up to be the next generation that come up with solutions to the current problems that we have on our planet. Everything around us is geography. Everything we see in the news is geography. Everything that is life is geography. And I encourage everybody to choose geography as their GCSE so they can learn what a fantastic planet we live on.
Hi, I'm a previous student of Mrs. Pavey, and I am now a geography teacher myself. I'm just going to go through some of the reasons why I chose to do geography when I was at school. Firstly, I just found it interesting in general. It was really relevant to my life, especially with some of the migration policies and case studies that we looked at. And especially nowadays, it is increasingly relevant, and it really developed my debating techniques. On top of that, I just thought that it gave me some ideas and answers into these big questions in geography. And the GCSE unit is really encompassing and overarching of many different modules such as rivers, migration, development, tectonic hazards. So I felt like I was really delving into multiple aspects of geography. On top of that, it really developed my numeracy and literacy skills, and these are skills that make you highly employable. I also knew that geographers were able to delve down different routes for different careers, and I found it really interesting overall.
Hi, my name is Tom Neville. I chose GCSE Geography because I feel it helps you understand the world around you. I now know what is relevant to us, such as urban issues, world development, hazards and rivers. It has also given me an understanding on how to protect yourself from flooding, how to tackle climate change, and use alternative fuel supplies. GCSE Geography has really made me make a difference. I took the initiative this year to close 6 streets in and around Eastbourne to improve air quality, to show people what a street can look like without vehicles. I now want to urge you to take up GCSE Geography, as I believe it is extremely beneficial.
I chose geography because it was really quite a fascinating subject, and it makes you learn about the world and makes you really zoom in on the situations that go on in our lovely planet. I mean, I didn't really know about desertification, to be honest, before I learnt this subject, and really it opens your mind, it does, and it makes you think, it does, but in a good way, and it makes you think about how we need to change this world that has been ruined by past generations, and how to fix it, and just so much more than you could ever imagine. It's not just maps, it's not just ecosystems, it's the future, really, of our world. Thank you.
I chose geography because it was interesting to learn about the world and other things that happened, and a deeper understanding of many issues that happen globally.
I chose geography because it allows me to have a much wider knowledge of how we interact with things in life, such as economy, of how we interact with each other as people, our planet and nature. This gives me a lot of new skills that I can use for future jobs.
I picked geography because I enjoy learning about how the world works, such as volcanoes, earthquakes, and much more. I enjoy learning about how people are affected by natural disasters, such as floods and tsunamis. I also like learning about how deforestation is impacting our Earth, and I enjoy teaching other people how they can take part in helping the world.
I chose geography because it teaches you about the wider world, and it also helps you in the future when applying for jobs. You can help with map skills when you're trying to find a route to go to somewhere, and it teaches you things that you need after school.
Right, I chose geography because I thought it was a really interesting subject, and I was really looking forward to doing all the map reading and all the practical stuff of it, and also learn different things about different cultures of the world and how people live.
I chose geography because geography is all around us, even in the smallest of things, and I really enjoy how you can figure out like the normal things you do in everyday life, how that goes into geography, and just figuring that out bit by bit is what makes the course so interesting. And as someone who likes to travel a lot, I get to see the difference between countries and how they develop and how they change over time, and I get to learn so much more about different cultures and different varieties of things in geography, and it's just everywhere. It includes everything from weather to politics to countries. It's just everywhere.